Let's move on to talk about the reading test now. The reading test has 3 sections. Each section, well, the first 2 sections, section 1 and 2, have 13 questions each. And section 3 has 14 questions. That's a total of 40 questions for the exam. And you have 60 minutes to do this test. So you've done the exam before. What did you think of the reading test?
The reading was difficult. There was not enough time for the reading part.
All right. This is a common, let's say, complaint that people have about the reading, is that they feel there's not enough time. Even, let's say, native speakers with a very high level of education tend, if they take the exam, they tend to finish the last question usually in the last minute. So you're being compared to the highest level of English. That's why most people, probably 98% of candidates, do not finish the reading test. And when I say finish, I mean finish by answering each one, not guessing at the last 5 or 10 questions. So, were there any question types that you found more difficult than others?
Yes, there were 2 types of questions which were really difficult. The first was true, false, and not given.
Okay.
And the second hardest of all was the paragraph headings.
All right. Okay. Well, like most people, you've chosen the 2 that are. The first one is very tricky. The second one is just difficult, and it's a real-time killer. The paragraph headings takes a lot of time to do it, and almost without exception, every exam has both. And you'll have true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, at least once or twice on each test. And most exams have the paragraph headings, and these are the 2 that cause the most problem for people. So, what did you find difficult about the true, false, not given? Was it the difference? Most people say it's the difference between the false and the not given. Is that what you thought?
Yes, the difference between the true, false, and not given. That was the difficult part.
All right, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're reading a text, and in there it says, Ahmed loves to eat chicken biryani. That's in the text.
Okay.
One of your statements that you have to answer, and you have to answer it as true, false, or not given, one of the statements says, Ahmed loves to eat Indian food. So is that true? According to the text, can we answer that question as true, false, or is it not given?
We can say it's true.
All right, a lot of people say it's true. It's not given. Chicken biryani says he loves chicken biryani. That's a type of Indian food, all right? The statement says he loves to eat Indian food. It mentions one type of Indian food. Do we know if he loves to eat all types of Indian food from the text?
No.
Okay, we don't. We only know he loves to eat one type. So the answer is not given because we don't know. We can't answer that question. Does he like all types? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. We don't know. Therefore, we have to give it none, not given. All right, now let's go through the question types. On page 3 and 4, if you'll refer to those, we have the question types. Now we're going to go through some of these quickly, and we're going to look at some of the key points. Let's look at the first one on page 3 at the top. It says sentence completion. You complete the gaps in the sentences using words from the passage. And then under key points, it says answers are in passage order. What that means is that the questions follow the order of the text. So the first question you will find somewhere first in the article. It could be in the first, second, or third, or fourth paragraph, but it'll be the first answer you find. Number 2, if you found number 1 in the third paragraph, number 2 must come after it. but it must come before number 3. So, for example, I start looking from where I found the answer to number 1, and I go down until I find number 2. Let's say I find it in the 4th paragraph. And then I look for number 3. I start from that point in the 4th paragraph, and I go down, and let's say I don't find it. I can't find the answer. So I go to the next question, number 4, and I find it in the 6th paragraph. So that means number 3 must be between number 2 and number 4, right? It has to be between the 4th and the 6th paragraph. So they follow the order of the text, always in order. And how many words will you write for an answer, for one answer? What's the maximum number of words you can write for an answer in the reading test?
1 word or a sentence?
No, it will give you the information at the top where you have the question, above the question types, you know, where it explains what you're doing. It will tell you how many words you can write. It will say 1 word only, or it might say no more than 2 words, or it could say no more than 3 words. So if it says no more than 3 words, could the answer be 1 word or 2 words? Or does it have to be 3?
It has to be 3.
No, it says no more than 3. So it could be, the answer could be 1 word, it could be 2 words, or it could be 3, but it would never be 4 or 5 or 6. So if the answer was red, white, and blue, can I write red, white, and blue?
Yeah, red, white, and blue. 3 words.
Well, that's 4 words. Red, white, and blue. And is a word.
So we have to add and as well as the 4th word.
No, we cannot have and. We can only have red, white, blue. If you add anything else, it will be marked wrong because it can only be 3 words. And you cannot have 2 answers. You can't say this one or this one. They'll mark it. It'll be wrong. If you have a wrong answer and a right answer, they're both wrong. All right. Let's look at some other types here. Going down this page 3, you see where it says labeling a diagram. You name parts of a diagram using words from the passage. This is very common in the listening test. Most listening tests will have a diagram. The next one is true, false, not given. We talked about this. And I told you, I gave you the example about Ahmed loves to eat chicken biryani. One thing, though, to remember about true, false, not given, they're always in passage order. The next one I want to talk about on page 4, sentence completion with a box at the top. It says you complete the sentences by selecting the correct ending from a box of option words from the passage. And then it says answers are in passage order. They're always in order of the text. Now, however, if I had the answers in a box, I personally would not look in the text for the answers. I would look in the box and I would see which words fit, either grammatically or because if it's singular or plural or something like that. There should only be 1 or 2 correct answers. If there's only 1 that fits, then I write that one and I don't look in the text. If I find 2 that could work, then I look in the text to see which one of those 2 is the correct answer. But I would always analyze first what I'm looking for. The next one, yes, no, not given. It says answers may not be in passage order. Sometimes they're in order, sometimes they're not. You'll know it when you start doing it. If the first 2 or 3 are in order, then they're all going to be in order. The next one, multiple choice. Okay, I think everyone knows multiple choice. You probably had tests with this. You choose the correct letter A, B, C, or D. And then under key points, it says answers are in passage order. They follow the order of the text. They're always going to be in order. The first one first, and then the second one after that, the third one is next, and so on. You will never have number 4 before number 3, or number 5 before number 4. They're always in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. All right, the next one, paragraph headings. As I mentioned before, this is the hardest part of the test. It takes a lot of your time. if you feel that you're not going to finish the test, as many people are, save these for last, because they are time consuming. Each answer is worth 1 point. So the easy ones are 1 point, the hard ones are 1 point, so do the easy ones first. Try to answer them though, if you can, right? We're going to go over one of these in a few minutes. All right, let's now look at the article that we have. This is page 11, and the article is the MIT factor. Now we're going to quickly go through this, and we're going to answer the questions on page 12. So we're looking at page 11 and 12, and we have an article here. It's called the MIT factor. And then it goes on page 11 and 12. And then on page 12, on the right-hand side, we have the questions, 5 questions, true, false, not given. So we're going to go through this fairly quickly. And we're going to look at the answers. I'm going to kind of lead you along so that we can save time. The questions are true, false, not given. When we just talked about the question types, do these follow the order of the text or not?
Oh yes, they always follow the text order.
Okay, they do. They follow the text. So the first question will be the first one we find in the text, and then the second, third, and fourth, and so on. They'll be in order. All right, let's look at the first question then. Or let's look at this first. It says questions 1 to 5. Do the following statements agree with the information in the reading passage? Write true if the statement agrees with the information, false if the statement contradicts the information, not given if there is no information on this. In other words, if we cannot answer the question true or false, then it's going to be not given. All right, let's look at number 1. And remember, this will be the first one we find in the text. The activities going on at the MIT campus are like those of any other university. All right, let's start at the beginning, and we're going to skim, going back and forth quickly. And let's look at the very beginning. It says, the first sentence, the musician Yo-Yo Ma's cello may not be the obvious starting point for a journey into one of the world's great universities. But, as you quickly realize when you step inside the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, there's precious little going on that you would normally see on a university campus. Okay? So, that's our answer to number 1. It says, there's precious little going on that you would normally see on a university campus. So, is that first question, the activities going on at MIT campus are like those of any other university?
The answer is false.
Yeah, it's false, right? It's saying the opposite. It's saying there's precious little going on that you would normally see on a university campus. So it's not the same as other campuses. So the first one is false. Let's look at number 2. Harvard and MIT share a similar approach to education when they were founded. All right, now I'm looking for Harvard University, mentioning Harvard. So I'm just going to skim quickly until I find the word Harvard. All right, now I'm going fast because I'm just looking for the word Harvard. And I find it on page 11, on the right-hand side of the page, the second paragraph there, where it begins with, from the moment MIT was founded by William Barton Rogers in 1861, it was clear that it was not. Okay, now here we have our comparison between Harvard and MIT. It says, while Harvard stuck to the English model of a classical education with its emphasis on Latin and Greek, MIT looked to the German system of learning based on research and hands-on experimentation. So what is the answer there? Harvard and MIT share a similar approach to education when they were founded?
I believe the answer will be false.
Okay, it is false. Because it's saying that they're not the same. That Harvard was a classical education, especially learning, the students had to learn Latin and Greek You know, it's an old education that goes, a type of education that goes back to the Middle Ages, actually, hundreds of years ago. Whereas MIT was using a German system, a hands-on approach. And of course, MIT is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's teaching engineers, chemists, scientists. So a hands-on approach, of course, would be much more better for them. All right, number 3, the school motto was suggested by a former MIT student. Okay, so we're going to start from where we found number 2, and we're going to look down. We're looking for something about the motto. And then we notice in the next paragraph, it says, this down-to-earth quality is enshrined in the school motto, and this is Latin, mens et manus, mind and hand, as well as its logo, which shows a gowned scholar standing beside an ironmonger bearing a hammer and an anvil. Okay, so was this suggested by a former MIT student?
The answer is not given.
Okay, it doesn't tell us that. We can't answer that. Maybe it was. If it said it was not, or it was founded by someone else, it would be found false. If it said that this was suggested by a student or something like that, then the answer would be true. But it doesn't tell us anything about who came up with this motto, so the answer is not given. Number 4, the MIT's logo reflects the belief that intellect and craftsmanship go together. Well, it's the very next sentence. It says, that symbiosis of intellect and craftsmanship still suffuses the Institute's classrooms, where students are not so much taught as engaged and inspired. So, what do you think is the answer to number 4?
I think the answer will be true.
Okay, that symbiosis of intellect and craftsmanship still suffuses the Institute's classrooms, where students are not so much taught as engaged and inspired. Yes, the answer is true. All right, and the last one, Silicon Valley companies pay higher salaries to graduates from MIT. Well, we have to go to the next page, 12. And it's in the middle there. And it talks about, in the second paragraph on page 12, the third sentence. Okay, we're looking for something about Silicon Valley companies pay higher salaries. It mentions Silicon Valley firm, a Silicon Valley firm. It says, as he has heard that a Silicon Valley firm is already developing something similar. As such, he might become one of the many MIT graduates who go on to form companies that fail. And then a few lines down, it says, a survey of living MIT alumni found that they have formed 25,800 companies, employing more than 3 million people, including about a quarter of the workforce of Silicon Valley. Is there anything in here about salaries and money, how much they make?
No, so I believe the answer will be not given.
That's right, it's not given. We can't answer that question, therefore it's not given. All right, now, of course, the key is to do that as quickly as possible. Let's move on now. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. Let's look back at the first question. The first question and the first answer. The answer, we said, was the second sentence of this article. But, as you quickly realize, this sentence begins with the word but. If you have in IELTS, either reading or listening, if you have a sentence that begins with a word like but, can you think of another word that has a similar meaning? Another linking word that has a similar meaning to but?
Although.
Okay, although. I was thinking more, okay, although. If it's at the beginning of a sentence only, not in the middle, both of these. If they're at the beginning of a sentence, that's important. The one I was thinking of was however. Because you see, all of these tell us something new. something different. And that's usually where we find our answer, especially in reading, and sometimes in listening, but especially in the reading, and especially in when we do the paragraph headings. There's another word that they like to use, hence. You know what hence means?
No.
Huh? Sorry?
Could you repeat?
What does hence mean? I haven't said what hence means. All right, hence is the same basically as therefore. It's very hot outside today. Hence, I will not need a jacket. And therefore, I do not need. So we have hence or therefore. Beginning a sentence, okay? Not in the middle of a sentence, but at the beginning of a sentence. This is important. Very often, that's where we find the answers to our questions, and especially in the paragraph headings, which we're going to do in minutes. Okay, let's look now. Let's go to the article we have here on page 77 and 78. As you can tell from the beginning here, we have a honeycomb, so this is going to have a lot to do with bees, honeybees. The article is called Gold Dusters. And then we have, above this article, we have the list of headings. You see the box above the article? And we have 10 headings. These are Roman numerals, I, and so on, all the way down to X, which is 10. We have then below it the paragraphs, A through G. We have to find the heading for those paragraphs. So we have 7 paragraphs, but we have 10 headings. So what does that mean? Are we going to use all the headings?
Yes, I believe.
No. We have to answer each paragraph. We have to find a heading for the paragraphs. So that means we only need 7 of these headings. That means 3 of those we're not going to use. And those 3 can sometimes cause problems because they're going to be similar to a few answers, but not the best answer. All right, so what we do, we always do these from paragraph to the list. We're going to go through the paragraph and we're going to find the main idea. And then we're going to match that main idea to the headings in the box. Okay, now, let's look at the first paragraph. We're looking for a main idea. This talks about, the first paragraph, it's talking about how plants reproduce. Flowers need to be pollinated. So someone or something needs to move the pollen from one plant to another. This could be the wind, or it could be an insect, a fly, a bee, anything. Ants, could be many, many different things, right? They move the pollen from one plant to the other. It could even be a human using a little stick with cotton on it, and they dip it here and here and here, and this pollinates, okay? But that would be a difficult job, and ants and bees they like to do it, so we also like the honey that they produce. Okay, so it talks about the different kinds of plants and things. We're not looking for detail. We're not looking for supporting elements or supporting detail. We're looking for the key sentence. And you'll notice the last sentence begins with what word in this paragraph? On page 77, you see the last sentence of paragraph 8.
It says to work better.
The last sentence of that paragraph, what is it?
To work better. Seem to
No, the whole sentence.
But natural means seem to work better.
Okay, begins with
But.
all right. It talks about how these things, but how they could be done, shaking, blowing, air blowers, blasts of sound, and so on. And it says, but natural means seem to work better. In other words, nature is the best pollinator. So the answer is B. an impossible task for humans. This is not something humans can do very well. We are not efficient at pollinating. We need help. We need, and of course, nowadays, most big farms have honeybees to do the pollination, because the honeybees do a very good job of it, and that's what it says here. And they also give us the benefit of honey, right? So the answer to that one was V. Let's look at the second paragraph. And we're looking for the main idea. It's talking about the types of this paragraph, this whole paragraph here. It talks about all the different insects and animals that are known to pollinate. And it talks about flies, beetles are the original pollinators, and then it goes back to bees, hummingbirds, butterflies, moths, wasps, ants, and so on. And then it talks about, in the rainforest, some monkeys, lemurs, in Madagascar, and so on. So it's talking about what? It's talking about all the different ways that plants can be pollinated by different creatures. So the answer is V, I. Some obvious and less obvious pollen carriers. All right, then we go to paragraph C. We're looking for the main idea. And this one talks about, we have this person, Claire Kremen, University of California, Berkeley. It says, we didn't have to manage pollinators. They were all around because of the diverse landscape. Now you need to bring in an army to get pollination done. It's talking about the past. Farmers didn't need to bring in bees to pollinate because they were all over the place. Because in the past, we grew different fruits and vegetables and plants and grains like corn, wheat, and so on. We grew them all together. Nowadays, they're all separate. You have a big area of corn, a big area of wheat, another area for fruit trees, and so on. So you don't have a lot of different pollinators, and that's what this one is talking about. And it's talking about how the bees became the preferred pollinators. So the answer is VI, the preferred pollinator, the bees. The bees became the preferred ones. They do a good job of it. They work very hard, and they also give us honey and wax, right? So that's why they are the preferred one, and so on. We go through all of these the same way. One thing to remember for things like sentences that begin like this, and also, if you're reading a lot of supporting detail about a lot of examples, that's not going to be the answer, usually. You're looking for a key sentence that gives us the main idea. As we said before, the reading is difficult. It takes a long time. The reading is hard. If you practice them, it gets easier. If you have a good vocabulary, it makes it easier. If you have a poor vocabulary, it's going to be very hard because you won't understand it. Also, don't spend time reading. Skim and scan. That's it. Most people do not have time to read and then answer. You have to go from the question, read the question, go to the text, skim for it. Remember which types follow the order of the text. All right, any questions now about the reading?
No, thanks.